All right, so I'm back with yet another quick Pauper deck tech. So the list I've been having a lot of fun with lately is a mono red Goblin tribal aggro deck. So the Kuldotha Rebirth decks right now are very popular and very strong. They're currently tier 1 and they do run lots of goblins. But to me, they don't really feel like a true Goblin deck. They feel more like an artifact synergy deck. So I wanted to make a pure Goblin deck that really feels like a Goblin tribal deck. I kind of wanted that flavor of, just classic Goblins. So I threw together this Pauper list, which has felt pretty strong to me, and it's also a ton of fun to play. And as I said, it's very flavorful. So if you do want a tribal deck, if you, like me, are someone who enjoys tribal decks, then I think this is a really solid Goblin list, which can also be tweaked depending on your meta and your requirements. So, yeah, it's essentially a 24 land mono red Goblin aggro deck that kind of wants to go wide and pump the team. So, the centerpiece of the deck is our one Goblin Lord in Pauper, which sadly I believe is not on Magic Online, which is a bit of a pity. But if you're playing in paper, you can run it. So it's Goblin General, 3 mana for a 1/1. It says whenever it attacks, goblins you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So that's obviously very strong in a Goblin deck. Okay, so I will start with our 1-drops. At the moment, we're running 2 copies of Mog Fanatic, 1 red for a 1/1. It says sacrifice it, deal 1 damage to any target. So this can be nice for picking off 1 toughness creatures or pinging your opponent's face. It's quite a classic card from Magic's history. Then on the other end of the spectrum is this very new card, Reckless Lackey, 1 red for a 1/2 with first strike and haste, and it says pay 3, sacrifice it, draw a card, and create a treasure token. So that's just a lot of text on a single 1-drop goblin, and none of the text is bad, and it has 2 toughness, meaning it is resistant to end the festivities, and it can, do combat with 1 toughness creatures, or 1 power creatures successfully, so it's just fantastic. Then our final 1-drop is we're running 2 copies of Goblin Sledder, another classic card that has appeared in Goblin lists all the way back to Onslaught. So it's 1 red for a 1/1, and it says sacrifice a goblin, target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So this is very neat for when we're trying to go for the kill and we're doing our big combat step, attacking with a ton of creatures, that basically if they leave one of our creatures unblocked, if they are on low life, we can just sack all of our goblins to pump that unblocked creature and just punch through for that final lethal damage. Next, I will proceed to look at the 2-drops. So quite a crucial 2-drop in this list, which at the moment I'm only running 3 copies of it, but it's possible that 4 copies is the best number because it's just such a powerful tribal pump effect, is Goblin Lookout. So it's 2 mana for a 1/2, and it says tap, sacrifice a goblin, all goblins get +2/+0 until end of turn. So if our board is full of goblins, that is obviously just a ton of damage, 2 times X, where X is our goblins. So I found this to be really great for going for those massive big swings to finish our opponent off. Then we are running 3 copies of Mog War Marshal, also just a great way of putting lots of goblin bodies on the board. So it's 2 mana for a 1/1 with an echo cost of 2. So it says at the beginning of your next upkeep after you play this, you have to either pay 2 or sacrifice this. But it says when it enters the battlefield or dies, create a 1/1 red goblin token. So that's just very nice for filling our board quite quickly. And then our final 2-drop, which I'm a little on the fence about, but I kind of do like it in certain matchups, especially against decks that are killing our goblins in large numbers or board wiping us. It's Skirk Drill Sergeant, so it's 2 mana for a 2/1. It says whenever it or another goblin dies, you may pay 3. If you do, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a goblin permanent, put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, put it into your graveyard. So kind of no explanation really needed there. This means that if we have that mana open, when our goblins die, we're either getting another goblin, or we are, putting the top card of our library in our graveyard, meaning that that card was either a land or a goblin grenade. So if we're basically getting rid of our lands so that we're not drawing lands, that's kind of good for us. So we're either getting a goblin or we're usually, getting a land away from the top of our library so that we don't draw it. Both of those options are pretty good for us. Then We're also, of course, running Goblin Bushwhacker just as one of our ways of pumping the team and going for those mega big lethal swings. So it's 1 red for a 1/1 Goblin with a kicker cost of 1 red. It says when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. So this card is just fantastic. Then we're running 4 copies of Goblin Matron, another classic Goblin card, which is my